The first time I saw Marcus again, he didn't recognize me. Not at first. He was stepping out of a black SUV like he owned the sidewalk, suit crisp, watch catching the sun like a threat. Two men followed behind him with the posture of people who didn't ask permission to exist. And there I was, standing on the courthouse steps with a folder in my hand, wearing a jacket I'd had since college, heart thundering like it was about to confess something illegal. 3 hooks, 3 seconds, 3 truths. I used to call him brother. He used to call me family. And now I was holding the only evidence that could destroy him. He looked right through me. Then his eyes flicked back, slowed, narrowed. Recognition hit his face like a slap. His lips parted slightly. Not fear, not shock. Disgust. Like I was a problem he thought he had already buried. And that's when I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival. Because the thing Marcus didn't understand, even now, was that the person he betrayed 8 years ago had died, and the person standing in front of him had nothing left to lose. 8 years earlier, Marcus and I built our lives in the same apartment. Not literally the same life, different paths, but the same kitchen, the same couch, the same cheap ramen nights. We were 22, broke, and convinced we were smarter than everyone else. He had the mouth. I had the patience. Marcus could sell ice to a snowstorm. I could sit in a room for 12 hours and outlast anybody. Together, we were dangerous. We met in community college, both working nights. He was the guy who helped the shy kid at the register when a customer started yelling. I watched him take the heat with a smile, then walk outside and punch a brick wall when nobody was looking. I followed him out, handed him my bottle of water, and said, "That wasn't about the customer." He looked at me like I'd just read his mind. We were friends after that, then brothers, then business partners. It started simple, flipping used phones, then refurbishing laptops, then a little online store. Marcus wanted everything fast. I wanted it stable. He'd say, "We need risk to win." I'd say, "We need trust to survive." He'd laugh like I was cute, and I'd laugh like he wasn't dangerous. We were both wrong. When our store finally made real money, Marcus got a new habit. He started speaking in futures. When we're rich, when we expand, when we move into the city. He never said if. He said when, like the world had already signed the contract. But there was one thing he didn't put in his speeches: the debt. At first it was small. Then it wasn't. A shipment goes missing. A refund wave hits. A supplier raises prices. Marcus kept it hidden because he didn't want me slowing him down. One night I came home late and found him at the table, staring at a laptop screen like it had a gun to his head. "What's going on?" I asked. He snapped the screen shut too fast. "Nothing," he said. I didn't move. He looked at me and forced a grin. "Just numbers." That should have been enough to make me dig. But I trusted him. That's the thing people don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't start with someone stabbing you. It starts with you handing them the knife, smiling, because you're sure they'd never use it. It happened the week my mom got sick. The call came at 2:13 a.m. I remember the exact time because I stared at my phone after, unable to breathe, like the numbers were a code I had to solve to reverse reality. My sister's voice shook. "Mom collapsed," she said. "They're taking her in." I didn't even change clothes. I grabbed my keys, grabbed my wallet, grabbed the folder with our business paperwork, because that's what broke people do. They carry responsibility like it's oxygen. I drove to the hospital in a blur, and by the time I got there, my mom was in a bed, pale, confused, trying to smile like she didn't want to scare me. She reached for my hand. "Don't worry," she whispered. My throat burned. The doctor pulled me aside and said words that hit like a slow-motion car crash. Advanced, aggressive treatment, uncertain. My entire world tilted. But life doesn't pause when your heart breaks. Bills don't stop. Rent doesn't stop. And the business didn't stop. Or at least, I thought it wouldn't. I called Marcus from the hospital parking lot. "I need you to handle everything for a bit," I said. "Just a week. I'll be back." His voice was calm. Too calm. "Of course," he said. "Don't worry. I got you." 3 days later, I got an email from our payment processor. "Your account has been suspended due to suspicious activity." I called Marcus immediately. No answer. Called again. No answer. Texted, "Bro, what's going on?" Nothing. The next morning, I left the hospital for the first time since my mom was admitted. I drove straight to our storage unit, and when I opened it, it was empty. No laptops, no phones, no inventory, no packaging supplies, just dust and the echo of my own breathing. I stood there for a full minute, frozen, waiting for it to make sense. Then my phone buzzed, a single message from Marcus. "Don't come looking for me." I read it again and again, like it would change. My knees went weak. I sat down right there on the concrete floor because my body didn't know how to stand in a world where my brother had just erased me. I called him 20 times. Nothing. I drove to our apartment. His room was cleared out, his closet empty. The only thing left was a sticky note on the kitchen counter. 2 words. "Sorry, man." I didn't scream. I didn't cry, not yet. I just stood there, staring at those 2 words, feeling something inside me go quiet. Something died. A month later, the legal letters arrived. Not from Marcus, from creditors. Apparently, the debt Marcus had been hiding wasn't just a few $1,000s. It was 6 figures. And my name was on half of it. I went to a lawyer who looked at me like I was a cautionary tale. "He took loans out," the lawyer said, tapping paperwork. "Business loans, personal guarantees, and you—" "I didn't sign those," I said. The lawyer didn't blink. "You did, or at least, your signature did." My chest tightened. Forgery. Marcus forged my signature. The guy who used to share his last dollar with me had just put a noose around my neck and walked away smiling. I drove back to the hospital and sat beside my mom's bed. Machines beeped softly. The world felt sterile and unfair. She looked at me and immediately knew. "What happened?" she whispered. I tried to smile. I couldn't. Tears slipped out anyway. She reached for my hand, weak but warm, and said something that made my stomach twist. "People show you who they are when you need them." Then she closed her eyes like she was too tired to keep watching me suffer. 2 weeks later, my mom died. And the day after her funeral, the bank froze my accounts. I was 23 years old, broke, grieving, and suddenly drowning in debt that wasn't mine. Marcus didn't just betray me, he timed it. He waited until I was bleeding from the inside, then kicked me off the edge. That's the part nobody sees when they see him now, because Marcus didn't disappear forever. He disappeared long enough to reinvent himself. In the years after he vanished, I saw his name pop up like a ghost in expensive places. A startup here, a real estate deal there, a podcast clip, a charity gala. Then a headline. Local entrepreneur Marcus Hale launches investment firm. I stared at the article until my eyes hurt. There he was in a suit, smiling, looking like a man who'd never done anything wrong, like a man who'd never left his brother on a concrete floor in an empty storage unit. I wanted to hate him, but hate requires energy, and back then, all my energy was spent surviving. I worked 2 jobs. I paid what I could. I negotiated with creditors until my voice went hoarse. I slept 4 hours a night and woke up with panic like it lived in my bones. My sister begged me to let it go. "You're going to destroy yourself," she said. I looked at her and felt something cold rise in me. "He destroyed me first," I said. "But even revenge takes resources. And I had none. Not yet." The turning point came in the most boring place on earth. A DMV. I was waiting in line holding paperwork, when my phone lit up with a notification from an unknown email address. Subject line: "He did it to me too." My stomach tightened. I opened it. One sentence: "I have documents. If you want him to pay, meet me at 7 p.m. tonight. Location attached." No name, no details, just a pin to a coffee shop 20 minutes away. I stared at it, heart thumping. This could be a scam, a trap, or the first crack in Marcus's armor. I went anyway. At 7 p.m. sharp, I walked into the coffee shop and saw a woman sitting alone at a corner table. Mid-30s, professional clothes, eyes that looked like they'd cried too many times in private. When she saw me, she didn't smile. She just nodded like we were soldiers meeting in a war neither of us wanted. "You're Ethan," she said. I sat down slowly. "And you are?" "Claire," she said. Then she slid a folder across the table like it was contraband. "He ruined my life." I didn't touch it yet. "How do you know him?" Her jaw clenched. "I invested," she said. "He promised returns. He promised security. He promised—" Her voice cracked. "He promised a lot." I stared at her. "What happened?" She leaned forward and lowered her voice. "He's running the same play he ran on you," she said, "just with better suits." My fingers finally touched the folder. "And these?" I asked. "Loan documents," she said. "Contracts, emails, a paper trail. Not enough to take him down alone, but enough to start." I swallowed. Why bring this to me? Because then she said something that made my entire body go cold. "Because he told people a story about you." My eyes narrowed. "What story?" Claire's expression twisted with disbelief. "He says you stole from him," she said, "that you disappeared, that you left him with debt. He uses your name as proof he's learned to trust carefully." For a second, I couldn't breathe. Not only did Marcus betray me, he turned me into his villain origin story. He built his empire on my grave and then used my corpse as a warning sign. I opened the folder, and there it was, my forged signature again. Different year, different deal, same handwriting style, same pattern. Marcus didn't just hurt people, he specialized in it. Claire watched my face change. "You're thinking about it," she said. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because in that moment, the thing that had died in me years ago woke up. 2 months later, I was sitting across from a federal investigator. Not because I was in trouble, because Claire and I made sure we weren't alone anymore. We found 3 more investors Marcus had burned, then 5, then 9. People with different stories, but the same ending. Trust, promises, missing money, silence. The investigator listened quietly, then said something that made my pulse spike. "We've heard his name before." I leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "He's careful," the investigator said. "He keeps things just clean enough to look like bad luck, bad investments, miscommunication." My jaw tightened. "But," I pressed. "But patterns matter," she said. "And witnesses matter. And documents matter." She looked at me directly. "Are you willing to testify?" The word hung in the air like a blade. Testify meant war. Testify meant Marcus would see me coming. Testify meant he'd fight back. And Marcus didn't fight fair. I thought of my mom's hand in mine. I thought of the storage unit. I thought of the sticky note. "Sorry, man." I felt something inside me settle. "Yes," I said. "Marcus found out before the papers were even filed. That's how connected he was. That's how much power he'd built. The first time he reached out in 8 years was not an apology. It was a threat. A voicemail. His voice smooth, familiar, almost affectionate. "Ethan," he said, like he missed me. "I heard you've been talking?" I stood in my kitchen listening, arms crossed, heart steady. "I don't know what you think you're doing," he continued, "but you're playing with fire. You always were stubborn. That was your problem." He paused like he was smiling. "Let it go," he said, "or I'll remind you why you should have stayed quiet." The voicemail ended. I stared at my phone, and for the first time since I was 22, I wasn't afraid, because fear is what Marcus fed on, and I'd starved that part of me. I saved the voicemail, forwarded it to the investigator. Then, I did something I'd never done before. I called him. He answered on the second ring. Silence, then his voice, low and amused. "Look at you," he said. "Still alive?" I smiled slightly. "Yeah," I said. "You should have finished the job." His breath hitched, just for half a second. Then his tone hardened. "You don't want this," he said. "I do," I replied. "You don't get to keep eating people and calling it success." He laughed, a cold laugh. "Is this about your mom?" he asked. "Because that's not—" I cut him off. "Don't," I said. Silence again. Then he spoke like he was giving advice. "You were always too emotional," he said. "That's why you lost." My voice stayed calm. "I didn't lose," I said. "I learned." And I hung up. The day of the preliminary hearing, I arrived early. Not because I was nervous. Because I wanted to see him walk in. Because I wanted to watch his face when he realized the past he buried was sitting in the front row. When Marcus entered, the room shifted. He had that aura, confidence made from money and manipulation. He nodded at people like they were employees. He smiled at the judge like they were old friends. Then his eyes landed on me, and his smile didn't fall. It sharpened. He walked past, leaned close, and whispered without looking at me, "You really want to do this in public?" I didn't look away. "Yeah," I whispered back. "I want everyone to see what you are." His jaw flexed. Then he walked to his seat like it didn't matter, like he'd already won, but I knew something he didn't. Because Claire had found one more piece. The one thing Marcus couldn't explain away is bad luck. We had an email chain from years ago. An early investor asking Marcus, "Why does Ethan's signature look different on this?" And Marcus replying, "Because Ethan doesn't read what he signs. He trusts me." That single line was everything. Not just proof, a confession, a mindset, a predator admitting the thrill. When my lawyer entered it into evidence, Marcus's eyes flickered for the first time, a tiny crack, but cracks are where buildings start to fall. Then came the surprise. The judge asked Marcus directly, "Mr. Hale, do you deny sending this email?" Marcus stood, smooth as silk. "I don't recall," he said. "The investigator asked permission to play the voicemail he left me." Marcus's lawyer objected. The judge allowed it, and suddenly the courtroom filled with Marcus's own voice. "Let it go, or I'll remind you why you should have stayed quiet." A ripple moved through the room. The judge's face tightened. Marcus didn't move, but his hands did. His fingers flexed once, like he wanted to crush something invisible. That's when I understood. Marcus didn't feel guilt. He felt inconvenience. People like him don't think they're evil. They think they're entitled. And that moral debate and that question, is a man like that born or built? It sat in the room, unspoken, heavy. Then the judge ordered a deeper investigation, more subpoenas, more records. Marcus walked out that day still smiling for cameras, but I saw it. That slight tension behind his eyes, the panic he couldn't fully hide. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't controlling the narrative. 2 weeks later, I got another message, unknown number, one line. "You're digging in the wrong place." My stomach sank. Then another message. "Check your mother's old storage." My heart stopped. I hadn't thought about my mom's storage unit in years. After she died, I was too broke to keep paying, and my sister said she cleared it out. I called her immediately. "Did you really clear it out?" I asked. She hesitated. "What?" she said. "Did you clear Mom's storage unit?" I repeated. A pause, then her voice dropped. "I couldn't," she whispered. I didn't have the heart." Cold crawled up my spine. "What's in there?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "It's just boxes, photos, papers. I locked it and I left. I hung up and drove. The storage facility smelled like dust and forgotten years. I opened the unit, boxes stacked, old furniture, my childhood bike, and in the far corner, tucked behind a broken lamp, a sealed envelope with my name on it. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter in my mother's handwriting. One page. It started with, "Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone." My throat tightened. I kept reading. And then my entire reality cracked because my mom wrote, "I need to tell you the truth about Marcus." I sat down hard, letter shaking. She wrote that Marcus wasn't just my best friend. He was my father's son, half-brother. My mom had kept it secret because my father had an affair years ago, and the family shattered, and she thought hiding it would protect me. But Marcus found out, years ago. Before he betrayed me, he knew. And he still did it. He didn't just rob a friend, he robbed his own blood. The letter ended with a sentence that felt like a final warning from beyond the grave. Some people don't break because they're hurt. Some people hurt because they're broken. My vision blurred. My chest felt too tight to hold air. The moral question was no longer abstract. Nature or nurture, evil or survival. Was Marcus a monster or a man who decided pain gave him permission? And the worst part, if he was my brother, then this wasn't just revenge. This was family. And family wounds don't heal. They rot. I didn't tell Claire right away. I didn't tell my sister. I just sat in my car in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Because suddenly, the betrayal had a new flavor. Not just greed, jealousy, resentment. A lifetime of feeling like he was outside the family looking in, then deciding to burn the whole house down. And the question became even darker. If Marcus could do this to blood, what would he do to strangers? I realized then that stopping him wasn't about me. It was about preventing him from creating more graves. So I went back to the investigator and handed her the letter. Not as evidence of crime, but as evidence of motive. And motive matters when you're trying to prove intent. The final hearing came faster than I expected. By then, subpoenas had pulled bank records, and the records were ugly. Transfers to shell companies, payments routed through accounts with names that sounded like fake corporations. Marcus wasn't just a con man, he was an architect, and every brick of his empire was laid with someone else's trust. In court, Marcus's lawyer tried to paint me as bitter, a failed partner, a jealous man chasing a successful one. They asked me why I waited 8 years. I looked at the jury and told the truth. Because I was trying to survive, I said. Because I was paying debt he left me. Because my mother died. Because I didn't have power. I paused. But now I do. Marcus stared at me, and for the first time, his expression wasn't disgust. It was something else. Regret? No, not regret. Recognition. He recognized that I wasn't the same person he crushed. He recognized that the prey had become something else. He recognized that the story he told about me was coming back to rewrite him. Then Claire testified, then the others. One by one, lives ruined, trust destroyed, families broken. And as each story landed, Marcus's mask began to slip. Not dramatically, not like a movie, but in tiny ways. A twitch in his jaw, a tightening of his shoulders, the way he stopped making eye contact, like the room was finally reflecting him back to himself, and he didn't like what he saw. After the hearing, Marcus intercepted me in the hallway. No cameras, no audience, just us. He stepped close, voice low. "You found out," he said. My blood ran cold. "You knew?" I asked. He smiled without humor. "I always knew," he said. "I just didn't think you'd ever know." I swallowed. "Why?" I asked. Why do all of this? His eyes sharpened. Because you had everything, he whispered, and you didn't even appreciate it. I blinked. What? He leaned closer. You had a mother who loved you, he said. A family, a name, a place, and you walked around like it was normal. His voice trembled, not with sadness, with rage. I had to earn every breath, he said, and you just existed. My hands clenched. So you destroyed me, I said. Because you were jealous? His expression hardened like stone. No, he said. I destroyed you because I could. He stepped back, eyes cold. Because deep down, you would have forgiven me. That sentence hit harder than anything, because it wasn't just cruelty, it was accurate. The old me would have forgiven him. The old me wanted peace more than justice. But the me standing there now? I looked him dead in the eyes. You're right, I said. I would have. He tilted his head slightly, almost curious. Then I finished. But that version of me is gone. For the first time, Marcus's confidence faltered. Just a flicker. Like he finally realized he'd created his own consequence. Then he turned and walked away. 3 months later, the verdict came down. Not the dramatic life sentence people fantasize about. Real life is messier. But it was enough. Civil judgments, asset freezes, ongoing investigations, deals falling apart, investors pulling out. And the most painful part for Marcus? Not jail, not money, exposure. Because for a man like him, being seen is the real punishment. The empire doesn't collapse when you lose cash. It collapses when people stop believing your myth. The day the news hit, my phone flooded with messages. People who knew Marcus. People who admired him. People who had posted photos with him at galas. They all said some version of, I had no idea. And every time I saw those words, I thought, that's how predators win. They don't need everyone fooled. They just need enough people to doubt the victims. A week after the verdict, I got a letter. No return address. I opened it in my kitchen, hands steady. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Marcus's handwriting. 2 lines. You took my future. I hope it was worth your past. I stared at it for a long time. Then I did something that surprised even me. I didn't tear it up. I didn't burn it. I folded it carefully, and I placed it in the same folder where I kept my mother's letter. Because that's the truth about betrayal. It never fully leaves you. It becomes part of your story. The question is whether you let it poison you or forge you. Last month, I visited my mom's grave. I stood there in the cold, hands in my pockets, listening to the wind. I did it, I whispered. He can't hurt anyone else. I expected to feel victory, but what I felt was something quieter, relief, then grief, then something like peace. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed. A message from Claire. Another guy reached out, says Marcus tried to pull the same thing last year, wants to talk. I stared at the message. The story wasn't over. Because men like Marcus don't stop. They adapt. They change names. They change faces. They find new victims. And the retention loop, the truth that keeps pulling you forward, was this. Even when you win, the war doesn't end. You just become the person who knows how to fight it. I typed back, tell him I'll meet. And as I walked away from my mom's grave, I realized something terrifying and powerful. Marcus didn't just make me stronger. He made me necessary. Because somewhere out there, someone else is standing in an empty storage unit, staring at dust, holding a phone that won't answer. And if I can keep them from drowning, then maybe my pain becomes purpose. Maybe betrayal doesn't get the last word. Maybe I do.